All right. Actually, think. All right. It's either too dark or too bright. Oh well. All right. Okay. All right. So we have Gavin Newsome's uh, declaration, emergency declaration. See for bird flu, and I want to get to the nitty gritty of it. Get into drones a bit and everything else. Um, sure, leave a like. Tell me what you think of all this and stuff like that. Um,
Bird flu is confirmed in the U.S. According to the CDC, a Louisiana patient was exposed to sick and dead birds. It's the first case of bird flu in the country linked to the exposure of backyard bird flocks. CDC officials say this shows the virus can sicken people other than those in the poultry and dairy industry. The data shows there have been 61 reported human cases of bird flu in the U.S. since April.
Today, Governor Gavin Newsome declared a state of emergency because of bird flu.
That declaration follows an outbreak of the virus among dairy cows in Southern California farms.
Fox 7's Hal Eisner joins us now to expand on the governor's actions. Hal, what does this mean?
Well, that's the question. What does it mean when the governor declares a state of emergency for something like bird flu? First of all, what is bird flu?
Bird flu is a name given to lots of viruses which belong to a certain group, and they predominantly infect birds.
Dr. Suman Radhakrishna is an infectious disease doctor and says when bird flu gets into humans, and they've seen this particularly in farm workers, the symptoms include pink eye or irritation of the eye, runny nose, congestion, sinus headache.
Some people also get body aches and fevers. Some people just feel under the weather and battle it out. But no one, for most part, has been so sick that they have to be admitted to the hospital, except for that one patient in Louisiana.
That patient, according to the CDC, is over 65 with underlying medical conditions. They had severe symptoms. After some cases were detected in dairy cows on Southern California farms, Governor Newsome declared a state of emergency to streamline and expedite the state's response to expand monitoring and have a statewide approach to contain the spread. Dr. Radhakrishna says if the bird flu goes from a bird to a cow, it can possibly get into the milk and into us.
The pasteurization process.
This is theoretical. This is theoretical. Oh my god. It's so ultra rare. You have to like stick your hands in this poodoo stuff to get something. Or not clean your hands or something. This is such BS. It's ridiculous.
Kills the virus. And there was one child in Central California who got the bird flu because the child consumed unpasteurized milk. So our recommendation to the general public is
So somebody's not doing a good job with the cattle and stuff like that. And keeping things clean, which is hard to do. You know, if you've been on a farm before, it's very hard. Can't exactly keep things always clean like they can do your best, but
pasteurized products, whether it's milk, cheeses, butter, yogurt, what have you.
The governor's office says to date no person-to-person spread has been detected in California, and nearly all of the infected individuals had some exposure to infected cows.
So bottom line, raw milk's a bad idea?
That's what she says.
And you've heard that before. All right, Hal.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of BS before. Let me see here. Bird flu and stuff like that. What is this? Let's see what. Potential state of emergency. Here we go again. Yes, exactly. So glad government officials don't overreact anymore, like they're doing right now. What does it mean? It means that the governor is head of another lockdown. It's stuff he can make money off of, too. He makes money off of pharmaceutical companies and stuff like that. God. Little head. I mean, a lot of Democrats make money off of pharmaceutical companies, the healthcare companies, etc. So, and the Gestapo. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, JLR had something. Let's see. About this. Let's see here. It was buried, though.
Breaking news,
Yes.
breaking news, breaking news, everyone.
Breaking.
We are live. JLR
Yes.
investigates with the breaking news. State of emergency.
Yes.
California.
Hallelujah.
Bird flu. Possibly coming to a state near you, folks. We got a serious situation we're going to talk about this evening
Yes.
on JLR Investigates. The governor of California just declared a state of emergency dealing with this bird flu outbreak that has been reported occurring all over the country. CDC just put out a statement saying the first severe outbreak of bird flu has happened in the state of Louisiana.
One person.
News reports are coming out in the last 24 hours about bird flu in Texas, in Wisconsin, Louisiana. None in California yet. And it might be dealing with a bunch of poultry.
Yes.
What in the world is going on here, folks? Do we have a potential pandemic? Some people say plandemic, pandemic. Lot of opinions on this matter. If it's like, uh-oh, we going back to lockdowns, folks? Are we going back down? Is this our next lockdown restrictive?
As someone said, you shouldn't put out this information like this. Thing is, when the government overreacts and does this BS with the emergency thing, unless there's over 1,000 people or something, you know, that's happening to in each state, I don't see the reasoning for creating paranoia. And like that person that died from bird flu was 65 years old, underlying health conditions. The baby that died or the kid that died was a baby or whatever. They don't have much of an immune system. So that says it all. Underlying health conditions, which a lot of people with COVID had these underlying health conditions that died and stuff like that. So I just wanted to get that out there. If there's anything wrong with my mic or audio or anything, let me know. I appreciate it. So, I mean, alright.
Can't buy poultry, can't buy cows, can't drink milk type of
No
deal
more
going
boo-boo.
on here. A lot of people are speaking, but this has broken today. So Newsome, Gavin Newsome, some like him, some don't.
It's all over the news.
Some think he should never be in the White House. You know, he's probably the 2028 presidential candidate, right? Let's be real. Newsome, I think he's prepping himself to be the 2028 candidate for president of the United States. But politics aside, he has.
I know for Democrats or Republicans, they're both a bunch of social psychopaths in a lot of ways, you know. But Newsome, what he's done to this state, total ruin and stuff, I have no respect. I have nothing but hate for the guy. Nothing.
It's declared a state of emergency in the state of California. California.
Yes.
This is the reports, folks. Come on in, and I'm holding this up because I'm going to share with you the declaration.
Christmas tree
proclamation.
Yes.
Gavin Newsome declares state of emergency over bird flu, calling it a proactive action. Some people say it's a money grab. Some people say it's all about the Benjamins, all about control, all about getting money.
Yes.
What in the world is going on here, people? Bird flu?
Yes.
I didn't think bird flu could affect humans. Did you? Fauci has been talking about it, though. He's talked about it. I guess these little strands of flus can mutate, and then eventually...
That guy belongs in prison. Worse than prison, actually, for a lot of the misinformation he put out. Total BSer. And he helped make and concoct COVID and stuff like that and everything. Oh my God.
Eventually get over to animals and eventually get to humans. Is that possible? Here's a live look at a chicken poultry farm going on right here. So I'm going to get this proclamation, folks. We need to talk about this because what I'm seeing this trend. I'm seeing the trends, right? I'm seeing the trends. And just within the last 24 hours, I've seen, there's something going on here. Similar to back in 2020, in the spring of 2020, when COVID suddenly popped up. And then all these states.
China.
Domino effect.
China number
all these
one.
States take action, starting with most California.
China number one
California's kind of like
the
leader of, putting a foot down on how they're going to handle a possible situation. Now, some people think this is legit. Some people think it's not. We have a lot of opinions, a lot of belief systems, and JLR investigates. I am just showing you what is out there. I am just sharing what the climate is right now when it comes to this situation. Emergency proclamation declared. Proclamation of the state of California by Gavin.
The problem is with the news is that you can't trust mainstream news because some of the news is just going to do what the politicians want them to do. It's like they're biased. They don't question so-called authority that can be paid a certain way, that can be bought into an agenda or whatever, like some of these other, some of the other politicians are. That's the problem. I wear face chill diapers. See some of this chat here. What does that have to do with it? Never mind.
Newsome. Come on in. Let's read it. Let's read it together. Come on in. I don't know, man. I
can't read it. I never made it past kindergarten.
Magnolia whipped up this wonderful, amazing turkey dish that we ate last night. We put some tortillas in there and we put some cheese. We had a good dinner. You see, Magnolia makes great meals. And then guess what? I contribute because I do the dishes. It's kind of like a cool thing we do together.
That's good.
She cooks good food. I sit there and do the dishes.
Yes.
It's good stuff. So, proclamation of the state of California. Avian influenza, they call it H5N1. H5N1, commonly known as bird flu, is widespread in wild birds worldwide, including the United States. Whereas bird flu was first detected in the United States in the wild bird population in South Carolina in January of 2022. In the domestic poultry...
They had actually bird influenza and stuff like that. They've had all through these years. Way back before, 10, 15, 20 years ago, there was all kinds of different bird flus. 20 years, 30 years ago, there's different types of bird flu from Africa, stuff like that. Stuff would come over here, migration, etc., or from shipping. People would ship, birds and stuff like that over here. Viruses would happen. You see where I'm going with this? So this is... They have all these different viruses from Africa and stuff like that, or Africa, South America, that it comes up here from north. So
population in Indiana in February 2022, and in the wild bird population in California in July of 2022. Whereas bird flu primarily infects birds, but can also infect mammals, including humans. Whereas on March 25th, 2024, an outbreak of bird flu infection in dairy cows was first reported in other states. Whereas since March 25th, 2024, there have been 61 total reported confirmed cases of bird flu infection in humans across 8 states, including 34 reported cases in California, with no documented instances of human-to-human transmission to date. Whereas on August 30th, 2024, bird flu infection was confirmed in a dairy cow in Central California, with the California Department of Public Health, CDPH, activating its Medical Health Coordination Center the same day to respond to the emergency situation. Whereas California has led the nation in milk production since 1993, accounting for 18% of the U.S. milk production in 2022, across more than 1,100 dairies statewide. Whereas between August 30th, 2024 and early December 2024, 641 dairies have confirmed positive tests for bird flu across 9 California counties limited to Central California. And whereas in response to the introduction of bird flu into California dairy cattle in August 2024, the state of California has mobilized a comprehensive on-scene response to bird flu in dairy cattle and poultry farms across the state to minimize farm worker exposures, reduce raw daily product contamination.
The thing is, on farms, that's a lot different with droppings and stuff like that, and how stuff could get airborne or whatever. I don't know. Not everything's just like air. You get year-round fecal matter. You have to wear masks a lot of times, specialized breathing masks. Where they have poultry farms, because the droppings can kill you. It's that toxic. So in a lot of these poultry farms that have all these chicken together in one area, you actually have to wear specialized breathing mask and stuff, apparatus. That sort of stuff getting airborne, that's pretty much like information it has to like get into the milk. It's not making any sense whatsoever. That you should be questioning this and calling out a lot of this is BS, as a emergency thing. It's just they're trying to create crisis, create paranoia and chaos. People go crazy in the head.
Contamination and contain the virus. Whereas the state of California Department of Food and Agriculture is running a comprehensive testing and quarantine program statewide, with 985 dairies currently under surveillance testing statewide and 614 dairies under quarantine, whereas thousands of bird flu tests are being completed each week that reflect the disease status of millions of animals, including testing every negative dairy in the state weekly and all poultry and disease control zones at least twice a week. Weekly testing for dairy subject to quarantine to establish they are free from disease before releasing quarantine testing in order to obtain a movement permits for daily.
Someone just said California homeless is, more of a threat with disease. That's very true. The stuff that goes back and forth with homeless is a lot greater than what is happening with this bird flu BS so far, with needles, drugs, and everything else. But I don't think they want you to hear about that. All right, they want you to focus on the bird flu. That the bird flu, that's the real problem. That's what you need to be scared of. So
in poultry farms and additional testing at dairies and poultry farms. Sounds like overregulation to me. It just goes on and on and on. The declaration here basically is, in a nutshell, it's basically saying, I further direct that as soon as hereafter possible, this proclamation be filed in the Office of State of Secretary of State that widespread publicity notice be given to this proclamation. So basically, it's signed by Newsome. So he's declaring a state of emergency. Let me go back to what he's ordered. It is hereby ordered that. Let me just go back to what he's ordered. All agencies of the state of California utilize and employ state personnel, equipment, and facilities for the performance of any and all activities consistent with the direction of the Office of Emergency Management Services and the State Emergency Plan. Also, all residents are to obey the direction of the emergency officials with regard.
Go fuck yourself, government. Go fuck yourself. I'm not gonna do shit for you. Fuck the government. I don't give a shit about government.
To this emergency in order to protect their safety as necessary to assist local governments and for the protection of the public health and the environment. State agencies shall enter into contracts to arrange for the procurement of materials, goods, and services necessary to quickly assist with the response to and recovery from the impacts of this emergency. Applicable provisions of the government code.
Yeah, a lot of people in the chat are saying F off. Exactly. That's what they want. We're supposed to be telling the government what to do. We're supposed to be dictating the government. Not a bunch of dicks telling us what to do or whatever, They're not. We're supposed to be in charge of the government here. And if we trusted the government, if they didn't lie to us all the time about stuff, we would give them that trust to, really give us dictatorial, things over us and to trust them, if they wouldn't lie to us all the time like they're doing. So
the public contract code, including but not limited to travel, advertising, and competitive bidding requirements, are suspended to the extent necessary to address promptly the effects of bird flu. Woo! We're in some tough times here, maybe. So basically, some of these things he's basically preemptive measures, proactive measures. What in the world is going on here, folks? Going back
he should
to
be
the
in
poultry
prison.
Farm here. Bird flu.
He is a total fucking two-face.
Bird flu.
It's like what I heard also is that, he's one of these guys that had all these lockdowns and he was having parties. He's had a get together with some celebrities and other state officials. This piece of shit pretty much had us locked down. He destroyed a lot of business. People fled the state, going to other states, lost all these businesses. He's a total piece of trash, is what he is. Amongst other things that he is. Taking children away from parents, that don't want kids to have transitioning and stuff like that. I call him a sexual predator with that, which I say he is, because that should only be for 18 plus year olds, not for kids, so I don't like the guy. I hate him. Total piece of trash. So
is this the new COVID? Is this the new pandemic? Is this something of something or nothing of nothing? Is there something that we should be concerned about? As reported, about 60 or so reported bird flu incidents in this country.
Of course, the two deaths were one was underlying causes, as they said in the news. All right. And so the baby That's because they don't have a good immune system. So that says it all. Was that? I don't know why idiots vote that POS into office. Just idiots vote that guy in there.
Some, right? But do they expect it to rise? Do they expect it to grow? Now, I'm going to share this clip by Fox News, who came out about an hour ago with a report. And it kind of shares more in depth of what I'm talking about and how, this bird flu stuff works. I think it's very informative to know, because I think we're going to hear a lot more about this bird flu in the wintertime. Bird flu. I feel a little sick. I got a little raspy in my throat. Maybe from eating the chicken last night. I don't think so.
Oh, damn. Don't say that, Magnolia. Kick your ass.
I don't know. Am I getting the bird
kick
flu
your
virus?
ass, dude.
That's what everyone's going to be like. Oh, my God. I'm sick. I'm sick with the flu. It's bird flu. It's bird flu. You must get a vaccine. It's bird flu. You must get vaccinated for bird flu to prevent bird flu. Is that coming next? Mandatory masks coming back? Mandatory masks to prevent...
I can tell you right now, I just say fuck you to all the officials and stuff like that. I'm not going to be doing it. I wear masks sometimes anyways because I have immune system problems. But I was wearing a mask before COVID. I was wearing that, and I wear off and on. And I take mass transit to get back and forth a lot, and it'd just be sane. It'd be just how sanity, and to wear a mask sometimes, of course, it's pretty much like a 50-50 wearing a mask. I mean, you might as well wear two to really keep things, better chance. But I mean, doesn't matter if you always wear a mask, that stuff can get through it. I know because I've worn masks all the time and I still get sick. So they don't always matter. They don't. So, I mean, this is from someone that's had COVID 3 or 4 times. Okay? Yeah, this is, I mean...
The spread of bird flu? Is everyone going to have to wear masks again? Masks? Is everyone going to have to stay home and not go to work? Everyone's going to have to stay home and not go to school because of the bird flu? I don't know. I don't know, folks.
Let's bring in the man with some answers. Fox News senior medical analyst, Dr. Mark Siegel. All right, so Dr. Mark, let's walk through this, because my first question is, why are we seeing an increase in cases of bird flu, salmonella contaminating our food supply? I mean, are the processing plants unsanitary, workers overworked, are farmers underserved and underprotected? What's going on?
All of the above is true, and you're seeing it in the milk supply. It's been found in Fresno, California. They've actually shown that it's in milking machines. Michael Osterholm from the University of Minnesota said this to me a couple of months ago. We thought it was in the milk machines. And, raw milk is not just a danger to people who might drink it. It's also rodents get it that way, drinking that raw milk, or people that are milking, using the milking machines, can get it on their clothes or get it on their hands. Now, of the 58 humans that have gotten it this year, none have died, thank God, yet. One in Canada is quite...
Did he just say of the 58 people that have died, luckily none of them have died? Yes, he did. That's exactly what he said. Out of the 58 people that died, none of them have died. And there are people that drink raw milk that don't get sick whatsoever. I don't believe all of what he's saying, because a lot of people on farms drink raw milk. They don't get sick. And you don't get rodent stuff in the fucking milk. You're lying off your ass in so many ways. People do drink raw milk and they don't get sick on these fucking farms. A lot of our ancestors drink raw milk. They don't put droppings into it. Are you fucking out of your dumb head? Are you that stupid? My grandparents had a farm. Do you think they put droppings and stuff like? No, they don't. They have it. They have that metal can thing that they put the milk in. Do you think they're gonna put droppings into that?
Quite sick, but it looks like it's a milder version. But here's what really concerns me, Arthel. A new study out in Science just this week, the journal Science, shows that we may be only one mutation away from it being able to pass human to human. It is not, as far as we know, doing that now, which is reassuring.
Yeah, if it's man-made, I can see that happening. Like with what happened with COVID being man-made and stuff like that. Yeah. And then, politicians and everybody can make money off of that, off of this.
Yeah, but that is reassuring. But one mutation away, I mean, how many times have we had the different strands of COVID, for instance? But let me stick to bird flu. First of all, and I'll come back to that other point you just made. Yeah. Hey, Dr. Mark, what is bird flu? I mean, it's a virus as far as I know, and how does an outbreak take hold, and what does this bird flu do to the animals?
All great questions. Bird flu, H5N1, is like a lot of flus. It starts in birds. It's called an avian influenza. And the problem we've had for 2 decades now is that even though ducks harbor the bird flu, they don't get very sick, but poultry has terrible immune systems because we're raising it for food. So it gets poultry very sick. It spreads easily. We end up killing millions of poultry to stop spread. And now, and this is over the past year, it's gotten into the cattle population. It's in cows. And of course, that means more human contact than before, which increases the chances of a problem. Again, it's a bird flu, but now it's spreading among cows, and it even got into a pig. The more animals it gets into, the more risk to us.
Okay, I've got 2 questions, but a short amount of time left, but let's see if we can get these in. So you just told us we're one mutation away from the bird flu virus being able to more efficiently affect humans. So at this point, should we even ask, how would you know if you contracted bird flu, and how do you treat it if you do have it?
They do have blood tests.
Really great questions again. So it's the same as regular flu symptoms: fever, shortness of breath, cough, sore throat, muscle aches. What it's distinctive about bird flu is it gives you red eyes. Now, should you worry when only 58 people in the
people get red eye naturally too? I get red eye, bloodshot eyes without getting much sleep or anything. So yeah. People get flus too.
North America have it? I would say no, but I also want to say that Tamiflu has been 100% effective against it so far, if we ever get there. And we have a vaccine that has worked in the past, but they're only in the process now of gearing up a stockpile of vaccines. That is something we desperately need, obviously.
Okay, so you mentioned vaccines. I'm going to ask you, final question, is there a way to avoid, or prevent?
With the vaccine, because the vaccine I had for COVID really fucked me up with energy and my head, a lot more memory and stuff like that. So they're not really that safe, as some in the government have said. And what we have found out and what they cause in heart conditions and in brain function and stuff like that can make you a lot worse. So, these vaccinations that they have, what side effects can they have? I studied virology, so I know a lot about it that most people don't. Okay, this is back in the 80s when I was a kid, too. I learned about it because of Rock Hudson, how he died, and AIDS and everything. I should brush up on a lot of it, but I know a lot about it and stuff, so.
these food contaminating outbreaks, and can the American people trust that the U.S. Department of Agriculture is on top of their game and safeguarding our food supply?
They're not doing it enough, and I'm very happy to see that they're monitoring it now, that they're just putting out this notification in at least 15 states, Arthel, that they've got to be checking the milk. We've got to check our milk. And obviously you have to drink pasteurized milk only. That should get rid of it, by the way, 100% of the time. Pasteurized milk only.
Yeah, pasteurized milk is healthy. Yes, it is. It is. But what I'm saying with non-pasteurized milk, non-clean milk, is that there's a lot of people that have drank it, raw milk, and they don't get sick. Pasteurized is a lot more healthy. I never tell anybody to drink non-pasteurized. It's not healthy, but at the same time, there are people on farms that drink it that way, they're just fine.
USDA has to monitor our milk across the country at this point.
Dr. Mark Siegel,
Scary.
Thank you very much.
Great to see you, Arthur.
Fox News brought someone to validate what's going on. Is this real or not real? That is the question, folks. Bird flu. Gavin Newsome, state of emergency. Now, the CDC has put out an alert today. The CDC newsroom about this H5N1. So we got to remember this, the H5N1.
H5N1, I'm ADD. So.
They put out an alert because in Louisiana, the great state of Louisiana, there has been a severe outbreak now. An individual, right, got infected by the bird flu.
And happening right now in the WRAL Live Center, a person in Louisiana has been hospitalized with a severe case of H5N1 bird flu. This is the first case in the U.S., and the CDC said Wednesday the person was exposed to sick and dead birds and backyard flocks. The virus is the same type that's been linked to recent human cases in Canada and Washington state, but it's different from the type detected in dairy cows, poultry outbreaks, and other human cases.
Yeah, someone said illegal alien outbreak as well, so which I'd say that's more of a pandemic than it's just me, but let's see. Drones spreading viruses. Why would I be crazy enough to believe that? Why would I be crazy enough to believe that? Because people have seen spray come out of these drones. I said that people have said that in these videos. What the fuck is being sprayed from these drones? And the government has done stuff before in spreading radioactivity clouds on the people in the 1950s and stuff. They gave, heroin, cocaine, black people in their cities. And, they've poisoned certain areas the government has. There's a lot of evil people in our government that does shitty things just to, have, I'm trying to find the right word. Experiment. Use us as experiment. The Russians did it, Chinese have done it, of course. But this is what I hate about the government, too. They pretend to be something that they're not. The sign of the angels, the best government, and they are pretenders in what they do and the programs that they've used on the people, experiments and stuff like that. No reason to trust the government whatsoever.
The investigation into that patient's exposure is underway right now, and the CDC said the immediate risk to the public's health remains low.
And somebody blamed Luigi Mangione over this.
It remains low, then why did Gavin Newsome declare a state of emergency after this CDC report? And it's kind of interesting that the state of emergency was declared around the same time the CDC put this report out about the severe case of bird flu in Louisiana. What in the world is going on here? Here is what the CDC said.
Yeah, people are saying, these drones are spraying stuff. What is up with that?
CDC said on their own website. CDC confirms first severe case of H5N1 bird flu in the United States. A patient has been hospitalized. This is December 18th.
That was December 18th.
Today's the 18th. This is an alert that came out today. A patient has been hospitalized with a severe case of avian affluenza, H5N1 virus, aka bird flu infection in Louisiana. This marks the first instance of severe illness linked to the virus in the United States. The case was confirmed by the Centers for Disease and Prevention, CDC, on Friday, December 13th. Since April 24th, there have been a total of 61 reported cases of H5 bird flu reported in the United States. Partial viral genome data of the H5N1 avian flu virus that affected a patient in Louisiana indicates that the virus belongs to the D1.1 genotype related to other D1 viruses recently detected in wild birds and poultry in the United States and in recent human cases in British Columbia, Canada, and Washington State. The H5N1 bird flu is different than the B313 genotype detected in dairy cows, sporadic human cases in multiple states, and some poultry outbreaks in the United States. Additional genomic sequencing and efforts to isolate virus from clinical specimens from the patient in Louisiana are underway. While an investigation to the source of the infection in Louisiana is ongoing, it has been determined that the patient had exposure to sick and dead birds in backyard flocks. This is the first case of H5N.
Why the hell? This is... So is around sick and dead birds? What, was she being used by the government or something like that as an experiment? What was she? I mean, a specimen that's being used or what? This sounds like somebody that, the government would put up or something like that, and they just inject it in them as a case study. Or, yeah, this doesn't make any fucking sense. This makes no fucking sense.
One bird flu in the U.S. that has been linked to exposure to a backyard flock. A sporadic case of severe H5N1 bird flu illnesses in person is not unexpected. Avian influenza virus infection has been previously associated with severe human illness in other countries during the 2024 and prior years, including illnesses resulting in death. No person-to-person spread of H5 bird flu has been detected. This case does not change CDC's overall assessment of the immediate risk to the public's health from H5N1 bird flu, which remains low. Okay, so help me understand this. I'm a little confused. We need some bird flu experts in the chat. Explain to me what's going on. Explain to me what's going on. California wasn't the first state to declare a state of emergency over the bird flu. Earlier in 2024, Colorado Governor Jared Polis issued an emergency declaration for Weld County, due to an outbreak there. The current bird flu outbreak started in 2022. Since that time, officials say more than 100 million birds have been culled by poultry farms to try to stem the disease spread. Now, Mr. Fauci, we're going to talk about Fauci because he previously talked about from from the COVID virus, but he talked about bird flu in the past. And it's important. A lot of people have a lot of mixed feelings about Fauci, whether you believe him or not. He warned about this. A lot of people don't like Fauci. Some people like him, right? He's a very controversial figure. Let me just say this. Fauci being very controversial, very divisive. We'll just say divisive. We'll call him a divisive individual. Though, when he says stuff, you want to listen. Because he had a lot of input during the COVID outbreak, right? Mr. Fauci. Let me see if I can get this clip here of Fauci. Find Fauci here. I got Fauci's clip here. I hope I have it. Maybe I don't have it. Maybe I don't have Fauci. Now, Fauci's somewhere here. Where are you at, Fauci? Where are you at? Where are you at, Fauci? Well, maybe I don't. Nope, Fauci's gone.
Fauci's gone.
He was in my queue here. If Magnolia, if you see Fauci in the videos, let me know. But let's talk a little bit. In the meantime, we'll try to find Fauci.
JLR?
I want to share what's going on in Texas. Because Texas has a report that came out today, in the last 24 hours, I think it came out today, talking about a situation in Texas. We talk about Galveston, Texas area. Galveston, Texas area.
I'm Haley Hernandez, and we are starting this morning with big news out of Galveston County. The county confirms its first case of bird flu. Texas has only been seeing bird flu since 2022, and since then,
bird flus have been around for decades, okay? They've been around for decades. This is nothing.
Been 12 other cases in the state. So joining me live is Dr. Philip Kaiser, CEO of the Galveston County Health District, with what you need to know to stay safe. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I appreciate you coming into the studio this morning. So first, talk us through this first case. It was identified in Texas City, and tell us about the actions that were immediately taken after that.
Sure. So a citizen noticed a duck walking along the road. It sounds like an opening to a joke.
It does, yeah.
But the duck was sick, and it wasn't really.
The duck was sick.
So they could tell just by the duck walking down the road?
Yes.
Staggering.
The duck was
really
walking strangely.
Oh, yeah, how strange.
Yes.
That's one of the things. If animals looked strange, its feathers were ruffled. And we can.
Well, they look strange. Don't know if they're on drugs or something. They've been drinking alcohol. You never know. Gotta suspect. Gotta call authorities. Officer, that duck is walking strangely. We gotta do something about that duck.
Get into that. But she called an animal control officer, and the animal control officer came and picked up the duck and brought it back to our shelter, and the duck died. And then we sent it off to the state, and then the state did testing on it, and we found out that it was in fact avian flu. And so that was very concerning. And then the next day, several of the people that had handled the duck had gotten sick. And so we really rallied around them, got testing for them, and found out that they didn't have flu. That was a good thing. But we were ready to, basically start treating them and treating contacts of them so that we wouldn't have any spread in humans.
So we're not talking about a pet duck. This was a
wild duck.
A wild duck, and
that's
somebody
right.
had clearly picked it up because it looked sick?
Yes, that's correct.
You probably would not advise people to handle birds that
we
look
wouldn't
ill.
do that, particularly the way things are now. So right now it's primarily in the bird population, and it's in our community. Harris County reported one yesterday. I talked to the state. There have been multiple cases around our region, so it's here. And it's not just in the migratory birds that fly over. It's in the birds that actually live in our area. So if people see sick animals, it's just a general rule of thumb, don't go touch them, don't go pick them up, don't go handle them. The other thing is that we're really concerned about people that may have livestock, or they have a small farm. We know people that live in the city, they have a chicken coop in the back, so they get some eggs. And if your animals get sick, don't just write it off. Be concerned that it's flu. Call us up. We will come and pick it up. If you're in Harris County, they'll come and pick it up, and they'll have it tested. That's the first thing. The second.
In the old days, I remember the old days, this was all the way back. 100 years ago, there's different flus, viruses. All throughout time, there's been flus, viruses. With cows and chickens. All throughout time, there has. So, I mean, is that you'd have to worry about how to destroy your entire livestock. It would scare the shit out of you. You would know. Some would be worried about reporting it because that's, tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars you'd lose out. If you thought, if there's a potential virus or disease going around, lose all that money. Can you imagine having a farm these days and worried about that? Oh my god. And how to destroy thousands of head of livestock or chickens or whatever. It's crazy. I've seen movies on that and everything.
Second thing is that, and this is the most important thing, is get vaccinated. The current vaccine that we have is actually very, very effective against preventing people getting sick with this flu. And the third thing is that if you do get sick, go see your doctor. We have medication called Tamiflu, works extremely well.
Okay.
And we would go ahead and treat people. But the other thing we would do is that we would treat people around that person, because it can spread from person to person. And so the way we want to contain it is to make sure that there's sort of a circle around people that get sick to make sure it doesn't spread and we don't end up with another COVID-like situation.
And everybody's just treated with the antiviral
Tamiflu? You don't want
correct.
What symptoms would somebody experience if they did have bird flu?
Well, basically the same symptoms you would have if you have any flu. Fever, cough, headache, sometimes diarrhea. What's interesting is with what's going around the country right now with avian flu is people have conjunctivitis. They get redness in the eyes, and that can be a tip-off as well. There's been some cases where that's the only symptom that they've had.
So the bird flu...
My problem with the news and everything like that, mainstream news, is that they don't question these people, and we know nothing about these so-called vaccines. The only virology and stuff like that, been around it and everything. These COVID vaccines were never vaccines. They were never 100%. That was misinformation. You can still get sick. You can still get COVID still after the fact. None of these are 100%. And plus, with different strains that are out there, you have to have something for these new strains. Okay? Viruses evolve. They don't stay the same. Of course, there's different viruses evolve, etc., etc., etc. So you have to get new vaccination shots for each strain that is out there. You have new strains of flus, of everything. So then you have the original COVID, and you have different SARS viruses that you have to worry about, and you have to worry about different countries making viruses and spreading them. Why the fuck does the U.S., China, Russia have biological, places where they make these viruses? It's pure psychopaths. The sickos, including our country, including the U.S., psychopaths. Just to kill off each other. And why don't they use it on themselves instead of having to use it on other people? They should use it on themselves. Be done with it.
It's transmitted from bird to bird, and it can be transmitted to people, and then from people to people too. So,
right.
So really, if you've been around birds or somebody else who has handled birds, then you could be at risk.
That's correct. And we want people to know what to do about it, in part because right now it's not a big problem in people. And we want to keep it that way.
Right.
Right.
I'll handle me some birds tonight.
Is it really infectious or contagious?
It can be. This is the same situation we faced in COVID. Right now, getting from birds and other animals to people, we've seen it in birds, we've seen it in cows, we've seen it in pigs. Every time it jumps from a different animal, it mutates a little bit. And what we're concerned about is the same thing we saw with COVID, right?
You can see again.
This one's more infectious, or this one's more pathogenic. And the same thing can happen with flu. It hasn't happened yet. And if we can have everybody aware, people getting vaccinated, people being careful about how they handle animals, people going to the doctor when they're sick to get diagnosed, I think we can.
Honestly, though, no kidding. When you handle livestock and you handle, animals, stuff like that, you should know you should be washing your hands. You should be. You should keep yourself healthy and stuff like that. That is true. You should.
and contain it.
Yeah, and what can you tell us about the two people in Texas City, the animal control officers who were exposed to the infected bird as well? Are they doing okay?
They're doing fine. That was over the weekend, and we turned out we don't know what they had. Interestingly,
you don't know what they had. You don't know what they had. I thought there was a bird flu epidemic. I thought there was a bird flu epidemic. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I could be dead wrong. I could be. But
for a whole bunch of things, but they're doing just fine. We also have several other people that are that have handled the bird, and we are doing what's called
Why would you have a lot of people handling the bird after the fact? I mean, if you have gloves and stuff, I think you got it. Never mind. Me, I probably read too much into it. But
intensive monitoring. So we call them up every day. How are you doing? Any fever? Any headache? And so far, everybody's doing well.
Yeah. Good to know that you're doing that monitoring. And then should they get the vaccine too? Should they preemptively get the vaccine if they are in any way exposed?
Well, getting the vaccine probably won't help you if you are exposed. There's some infections where getting the vaccine will help you if you're exposed. This is not one of them. But it's still a good idea to get the vaccine because even if you don't have it, you could still get exposed later. And it'll help protect you against the regular flu that's going around.
But it's not quite a general recommendation to get the bird flu vaccine.
Well, it's actually the same flu vaccine you would get.
Oh, okay.
So
I didn't realize they were the same, but it's not the same strain.
It's not the same strain, but the vaccine will cover and help protect against this particular.
Oh, well, then I know the answer is that you want everybody to get their flu shot.
Of course we want everybody to get their flu shot.
I got my flu shot because those are safer than the others, but.
And I think, is something that's really very important. And people are sick of hearing it. It's like, oh, from COVID, I don't want to get a vaccine. I'm tired of getting vaccines.
And every year,
do I really have to do this? Yes, you really have.
No, you don't have to get. You don't. And for I remember a high desert medical group where I was. They expressly said, if you have allergies to flu vaccines, not to get the COVID one. Not to. They said that, High Desert Medical Group, Lancaster, California. They said that. Okay? So, I mean, people do have allergies to some vaccines. They do. You go to a doctor, go to your doctor, see what they have to say. That's what you're supposed to do. Go to your doctor, get professional medical advice. That's what you're supposed to do. All right?
Because the reality is it can be
Because the reality is it's here. And the reality is that every year things change a little bit, and every year we need a new vaccine.
Well, Dr. Kaiser, I learned a lot that I didn't know this morning. I appreciate you coming in and sharing that with us.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
I wonder if Big Pharma paid the doctor to go out there and peddle this information. Do you believe them or not believe them?
Big Pharma, World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum, they have an agenda to push. The UN as well as part of that. They want the World Health Organization, the CDC and stuff like that's more political. It's out of politics and out of money that it has to do with people's health. So I don't believe hardly anything. I just go with what I know of the human body. Red blood cells, white blood cells, this, that, and the imbalance of red blood cells, proteins, protein cells, stuff like that. People should study virology. They should study, red blood cells, white blood cells, protein blood cells, stuff like that, proteins and stuff like that in these blood cells, and how a bit off can affect the human body and how viruses can affect the body. People need to do research and study up on that. If you don't, you're doing yourself and your body a disservice. Like I said, you get sick go to the doctors, go to urgent care, get proper medical advice, stuff like that. So I think the problem is with a lot of doctors that some are even paid to give out certain medications as well. You see them promoting stuff on their calendar for different medications. And if they sell out those medications, then they could get a payment. So I mean, seek proper medical advice, not from me or anybody else.
I see a lot of opinions inside the chat. It seems like it's all happening again before our eyes just in the last 24 hours. Bird flu, blur, bird flu, state of emergency. Look at this report. This is out of Wisconsin. It's happening all over. So that was Texas. We heard Louisiana. We heard California. It keeps happening and happening. And I'm not even going to play Fauci because I have Fauci here. I'm just not going to play Fauci because
don't play the bitch.
You know, Fauci's a very divisive person, and I don't want to trigger people. I don't want to trigger. We're not triggering.
We're already triggered, baby.
We are putting out, stuff that the news is putting out.
We're triggered, baby.
Let you decide whether you believe this or not. This is out of Wisconsin.
Animal control officers believe the bird flu is back at the Duck Creek Quarry. Since Monday, December 9th, Howard officials say they've retrieved 17 dead geese from the area. Because of that, the quarry, swim area, and a pond across the street are checked twice daily. When Fox 11 visited the area Tuesday afternoon, we observed at least half a dozen dead birds on the ice and another one that appeared sick.
So those would be in addition. Unfortunately, that side we can't safely get them off, but that is actually a higher number now because we were out there this morning and we only had found one.
This latest round of dead geese comes a year after animal control officers...
I see some people just say stop spraying the sky. Like these drones, some of these drones were spraying, so... Somebody asked also, will Newsome have to close his wineries? No. Darn tootin' right he won't. Oh, no. It can affect us, but not the politicians and people in authority. It won't affect them. Just do as we say, not as we do.
Investigated the death of dozens of birds in the same area. Those deaths, they say, were attributed to avian or bird flu.
It's a naturally occurring disease, just like the regular flu, cold season. They're all kind of commingling, and because they're not really moving along because of the weather, we're getting another spread again.
The DNR tells Fox 11 3 Canada geese that died after exhibiting symptoms consistent with the bird flu are being tested for the virus. Those results won't be back until after the holidays. But Matt Atkinson says he's 99% sure the virus is what's killing these geese.
From what we've found, they're showing the similar signs. The loss of head and neck control. The ones we've picked up that have passed away did have the single cataract. I would say very close that it is bird flu, at least preliminarily. We're not going to know for sure until the lab results come back.
Like the common cold and flu, the avian flu is easily transmissible through the air. This particular flock that Atkinson believes is migrating has stuck together at the quarry for about 10 days, spreading the virus. While animal control officials don't believe humans are at risk, they still want people to report any dead or sick geese to them and not...
They don't believe that humans can catch it, but they said that they just said humans can catch it, stuff. Anyways, I don't want to go through all this. This is his content. This was from 5 hours ago. People want to see him. Be sure to also look him up as well. This is, let me see here. Bird flu 2024. Was there Severe human. Yes, she had underlying health problems.
Also new at 4, the state of Alabama is reporting 2 outbreaks of highly pathogenic avian influenza. State officials tell News 19 this strain of avian flu has been identified in other states as having infected poultry and wild birds. But it is not the avian flu strain that's affected cattle and some humans in other states. News 19 chief investigative reporter Brian Lawson joins us now. Brian, where were the outbreaks found?
Right. So what we found so far is we're talking about Cullman, Alabama, and then in Pickens County. The outbreaks were detected in a commercial flock in Cullman and a backyard flock in Pickens. Now, the Alabama Department of Agriculture and Industry says the flu strain was suspected in the birds on December 12th and confirmed the next day. Under USDA and state response plans so far, an estimated 116,000 birds were killed at the Cullman site and 70 were killed in Pickens. Veterinarian Dr. Tony Frazier, who's the state veterinarian, addressed the outbreak today.
What we're concerned about now is that because we see this virus now in domestic birds, then we know that it has to come from these migratory waterfowl. And because those are free-ranging birds, they go where they want to go. And it's possible that they're
just like humans should be able to.
Some of those free-ranging birds are shedding that virus in other areas of the poultry production in Alabama.
Now, in facing the avian flu outbreak, state and U.S. agricultural officials have efforts underway to stop the virus spread. The identified sites are quarantined, and all poultry in a 6.2-mile radius are being monitored and tested for up to 2 weeks. Now, Alabama Agriculture Commissioner Rick Pate and Dr. Frazier issued a statement on the avian flu outbreak. They said, in part, it is critical for commercial and backyard poultry.
I should say 2 weeks is the usual incubation time for, viruses, for you to know whether a person or an animal has a virus incubation time. So
operations to remain alert and closely monitor the health of their poultry. Now, Dr. Frazier also wanted to stress to consumers that Alabama's poultry and eggs are safe to eat. No infected birds will be allowed past the quarantine, and monitoring efforts are being expanded.
There you go, man.
Also new at 4, the state of Alabama is reporting 2 outbreaks of highly pathogenic avian influenza.
Common cold and flu. The avian flu is easily transmissible through the air. This particular flock that Atkinson believes is...
I think I lost my playlist. You damn piece of shit, YouTube. But I want to go now to drones. Let's see what they say. Will not comply. Gavin is a complete disgrace. State wide and gone. Nope, never again. We're done. I guess the invasion did scare the public. Good luck, Gavin. Yes. Or pandemic. COVID. So that's pretty much what they have said there. And here I need to get my list back. Let's see. But how do you get here to? Let's get to drones.
G'day and welcome to Reality Check. Before we start this week's show, a quick word about this week's sponsor. Dr. Amy Lee, she's a US board-certified physician and expert nutritionist, sharing her warning about 3 harmful foods she'd like you to be aware of. She says these foods cause weight gain, they clog your digestive tract, they deplete your energy, and they wreck your skin. In fact, they're banned in other countries, but not in America. She's got a new video art which you can watch at 3harmfulfoods.com/Ross. That's numeral 3 harmfulfoods.com/Ross. Dr. Lee details how to spot and avoid these foods. one of the holy grails of UFO mystery, being shut down for inexplicable reasons by drones. This really does put the lie, frankly, to the assertions that this is some kind of mass hysteria. One of the biggest mistakes that the White House made when their National Security spokesman Jake Sullivan last week suggested that a lot of these sightings, or I think he used the word some to be fair, there was essentially the inference that what lay behind this was delusion by a large number of people, that at least some of them were deluding themselves, thinking that they were seeing drones when in fact what they were conventional aircraft. The truth is, as Mayorkas, the Homeland Security boss, admitted over the weekend, it's now very, very clear that people are seeing.
And it's always a privilege to be with you and your audience. Thank you so much for doing what you're doing and highlighting this important topic. The bottom line, we've been saying for years now that we do not have complete awareness of what's in our skies. In fact, it was part of my resignation memo to then Secretary of Defense Jim Mattis. And despite the if you will, the counter remarks of the Pentagon saying, no, we do, what happens, let me remind you and your audience just what happened last year when we started looking for these UAP and recalibrating our radar systems. We start finding Chinese spy balloons wafting over unchallenged over northern continental United States. And step back even 4 years before that, there was an eerily similar situation in Colorado and Nebraska where drones were being recorded, photographed, and even videoed by local law enforcement. FBI was called out, and they have no idea to this day the origins or where the things were going to or who was behind operating these quote-unquote drones. Now, what I will say, it was very interesting with some of these drones, Ross, is that some of them are being reported without the normal...
I should say, sorry about that. This is from News Nation, Ross Coulthart, I believe his first name, Coulthart. Got some good news on their channel and stuff like that, so give him a shout out, you give him a like. He talks about UFO stuff quite a bit. So is News Nation. And I think they want to get this stuff out about UFOs and stuff like that, for the distraction and the scam that's going on right now. So
techno signatures, if you will, of what a drone should be and should sound like. So there's two types of drones we have, fixed wing and rotary wing, and some of these don't seem to be following any of those patterns.
So can I just pin you down on that for a moment, Lou?
There's different types.
There's a thing that you've termed the 5 observables. Are any of these objects, and I'm going to use that neutral term, are any of these objects that are being reported over military bases, over crowded civilian areas, not only on the East Coast, but across the entire US and the UK and other countries, are these objects showing signs of what you would call the 5 observables?
Yeah. Ross, in some cases, yeah. Some people are reporting these things have the ability, first of all, they're moving silently in some cases over major urban area and populated areas. 2, there seems to be some perhaps transmedium characteristics. Some reports have these things coming out of the water and then zipping away very, very fast.
Yes,
what we refer to as instantaneous acceleration. It's and low observability. Can't see them on radars. In fact, when an investigator sent up a drone to chase one of these things, it lost power, and his own private drone fell to the ground, and the other thing disappeared into what was described as thin air. Now, I wasn't there myself to see those drones, but I can tell you I have video of these things actually over Andrews Air Force Base. They were over Langley Air Force Base, over some really sensitive facilities that we have here in the United States and overseas. You're right. This is not just New Jersey. It's California. It's Florida. It's Virginia. It's Maryland. It's Washington, D.C. These things are becoming, whatever they are very brash. And they're not really afraid to be seen at night.
Let's look at the White House's response, Lou.
Yes.
I'm going to say it. By any measure, it is a messaging public relations disaster. Do you agree?
It is a catastrophe. I have never seen an administration handle a topic as poorly as this. Even you mentioned John
Cats
Kirby.
were hard to listen to.
I hate to say it, shame on him. He comes out and tells people, oh, all these are manned aircraft on normal flight patterns. Meanwhile, you have literally members of Congress taking pictures and videos with their cell phones of these things over their house and hovering in some cases.
It'd be funny if it wasn't so crazily serious. I mean, you literally, one of the funniest things I've seen on the web today is a drone flying in the White House press room as John Kirby's giving that explanation. I mean, it's obviously somebody was having some fun with CGI, but what is going on in the White House, Lou? Why would they say these things when...
Don't listen to administration that has a guy that has Alzheimer's dementia. All right? The thing is, I know he does. It takes someone that knows people that have had it, that have died from Alzheimer's dementia. I've seen people in nursing homes, stuff like that with Alzheimer's dementia. My father did. The signs people have, and I think it's actually abuse that they have him in there and with what he has.
When they're so transparently false?
Ross, it's only one of two things, and that's all it can be. Either A, they do know and they're lying, they're not telling the American people, or B, they don't know and they're incompetent. That's it. So either they're lying or they're incompetent, but there is no other solution. And either one of those is really a bad place for this administration to be in. There's a long history of debacles to include the Afghanistan withdrawal and a bunch of other things that we just continue to drop the ball on. We're not informing the American people of the truth. And this is yet another example of whatever reason this administration it doesn't seem to have a handle on things. Now, I will say this, Ross, fortunately, and this is politics aside, okay, so whether you're liberal or conservative or anywhere in the middle, it doesn't matter. This new administration, independent of how someone may feel about the new administration, they've got a lot of key people that are going to be on those cabinet positions that are extremely proactive and dedicated to getting to the bottom of what's actually going on. And I think once people really know the truth, the whole truth about this topic, and particularly the UAP topic, I think there's going to be a lot of reconciliation. I think there's going to be a lot of people having to do some serious thought about what this topic actually means and what's actually going on, potentially.
So, Lou, let me pin you down. David Grush and you have both said categorically that there is a secret retrieval program of non-human technology being operated.
I said that for decades, you fool. Some of us have said this way before he did, or Grush did, and yet you morons never listened to us.
By the US government. Now, we don't know if the drones that are operating over New Jersey and other parts of America are non-human technology. But let me ask you this in this way, hypothetically. Whatever those objects are, do you believe that the reluctance of the White House to tell what it fully knows about this subject matter has to do with the secrecy surrounding the retrieval program?
It's quite possible. I see two scenarios. I see either A, these are all U.S. made drones, meaning they're our technology, and we have a significant threat issue on our hands, meaning there's somehow, weapons of mass destruction may be loose here in continental United States, and they're flying these drones at night with sniffer drones, trying to figure out if we can detect this threat if it exists.
Can I devil's advocate on that one, though?
Please do, because we'll talk about the alternative in a minute.
We have the NEST teams. I'm told the DOE has very effective nuclear emergency and safety teams, which go in and do this kind of radiological training and search detection. Why would we need to put up multi-lit coloured drones pretending to be aircraft if we've got the NEST teams?
No, that's a really good point. And they've also, why are they breaking protocol by operating only at night? And why are they breaking protocol by not coordinating with state and local tribal authorities as they should be, and other federal agencies like FAA? Why are they not using a transponder? Why are they not listed on flight aware apps that you can have on your mobile phone to track everything in the sky? Why aren't they listing their flight paths with the FAA if they're commercial type drones or military drones? There's a whole litany of reasons why that doesn't make sense. You're right. But I have to put it out there as a form of alternative hypothesis, because the other potential alternative is that we're dealing with two things. We're dealing with, and I don't believe it's foreign adversarial. I believe you could have both a mixture of UAP incidents with real drone incidents as a response to the UAP incidents. What do I mean? There's two sides of this coin.
Yeah.
So in the old days, if there was some sort of UFO or UAP incident near a critical installation, we'd have to wake up a pilot, he'd get into a helicopter, start up the helicopter and fly. And you can only cover so much space with a single aircraft. Now we have drones. And so what we can do is have prearranged coordinated areas in sectors or zones, if you will, and have the entire area geofenced. So if something breaks that perimeter, these things are automatically deployed and they're going to whatever area they're supposed to go and just start doing racetrack reconnaissance. And that could potentially explain why some people are reporting SUV size and larger craft where the lights, the strobe lights, are not consistent with any type of navigational lights that we have or anti-collision lights that we have for aircraft. They are luminous. They potentially are maybe displaying some of the observables that we have at the Pentagon regarding UAP. And what you're seeing in response is two groups of people. One group of people that are reporting UAP incidents, while another group of people are reporting the drone response by the U.S. government to look into these incidents, right? So they're hearing the sounds of the roaring propellers and they see the navigation lights. And yeah, that's a government quadcopter going out to try to find these things. That's a possibility, or it could be something even potentially more nefarious, which I've never spoken about publicly because I think it's a bit of a reach. But we used to have a term called seeding. And so if we were testing a supersonic aircraft, test aircraft we didn't want anybody to know about, and it crashed, we would go with a retrieval team, try to pick it all up as a government. And then in case we missed anything, we'd throw a bunch of parts of like a 1984 Cadillac alternator and parts of a Cessna and just make it really confusing. So if you picked up something, you didn't know exactly what it went to and what it was
psychological warfare type thing.
This potentially, if you really wanted to confuse Americans, what you could do is every time there was a...
That's what you could do with UFO. Yeah, UFO crashes is do that. If somebody found something, they could just make the deduction, well, that's weird, but there's all these other parts from the Cessna or their plane, so obviously it's not UFO. Yeah. I knew about this stuff already.
Set up a whole bunch of drones in the area, and then people will start recording drones and pictures and say, oh, that was a drone that you saw. You could do that, right? Part of denial and deception campaign. And it's very much like seeding, right? You start throwing a bunch of stuff of trash in the sky, and people start saying, oh, that wasn't a UAP. That was a quadcopter or something to that effect. That is also another possibility. I think that one's that's a bit of a stretch. Because that would take a huge coordinated effort, and I think too many people in the know would probably come out and probably blow the whistle on that, if I had to guess.
Lou, let's go through the possibilities, because you've given us a bit of a summary there that really raises a whole lot of new ideas. The government has said categorically through Sabrina, the Pentagon spokeswoman, last Thursday, that this is not foreign adversaries, and that was reinforced, I think, by Chuck Schumer on the weekend.
It's not. The infrastructure required would be obscene. You're talking over the horizon, beyond line of sight, coordination of telemetry data and maneuvering these things. You're talking about having to launch these things, having to recover these things. These things are loitering for 5 hours plus, sometimes traveling potentially tens, if not hundreds of miles. The infrastructure required to do that would be such a large footprint that there's no way any foreign adversary would be able to get away with that.
Okay, so then the next thing the Pentagon spokeswoman said was these are not U.S. military drones. And it was interesting because the reporter's question actually asked about whether these were American drones, and she answered these are not U.S. military drones.
Because during what we call national security events, agencies in the U.S. government can borrow equipment from other agencies and organizations. So you might have a military drone being used on Tuesday, but it gets loaned over to the Department of Energy on Wednesday, and it is no longer a military drone. It is now a Department of Energy drone.
Okay, but I've bled my sources dry the last few days, Lou. And
I bet you have, Ross.
I'm pretty sure that, I know the FBI say it's not theirs, Homeland Security say it's not theirs, and more importantly, the Department of Energy say it's not theirs. We're running out of available
That's how they do
agencies. I mean, there's another implication that lies behind this that worries me. Could this be a rogue element of the state?
Yes.
That would be very problematic. That is, so I shudder at the thought of that, because you're now on very dangerous territory regarding
the contractors. Nah, that I don't think so. I think this is just government, secret parts of the government, stuff like that. I don't think so. I don't think this is rogue. That would be scary if it was rogue, like you said. So let's.
Organizations taking unilateral and autonomous control of things in our government, which, from my perspective, that equates to a coup d'état, right? So this is really, this would be if this happened, if this is actually what's happening, and there is elements of the rogue state doing this, then my friend, we've got bigger problems on our hands than drones.
I admit, just to allay people's concerns, at the moment, it's only a possible scenario. But I mean, I'm wrestling with trying to find an explanation that doesn't include either a rogue US government actor from somewhere within the government that's doing the wrong thing without the knowledge of the White House, without the knowledge of the Joint Chiefs. Because I thought what was very important on the weekend was the Joint Chiefs, like the bosses in the Pentagon, came out and said categorically, this is not us. This is not defense, period. That was a very definitive statement. So somebody we know, though, is operating, or maybe something, is operating what now appears to be...
Look, it's real. It's shutting down airports. Ross, we're beyond that with that part of the discussion, right? Where people saying, well, are these things really happening? It's happening. It is a bona fide fact. The evidence is overwhelming. It is real, whatever these are. It's absolutely real.
He's right. You see, he's pissed like I am. If you know the truth, you're pissed off about it, or I'm not worried about it, really. I'm not. It's just like, it's happening, so what? It's just I want misinformation, and you want the truth of what it could be, and he's going through it, I've gone through it, and stuff like that. It's government, and there's huge psyop and scam going on, and warmongering, beating the drums of trying to create war and stuff like that. And people say, there are nukes on the loose, and there isn't. So
if it's not foreign adversary rivals, if it's not the US military, the only possibilities that remain, tell me if you disagree, are rogue government actors or rogue non-government actors, somebody with the resources to be able to build such advanced technology and deploy it with apparent impunity over the United States and many, many other countries. Or the third option is it's non-human.
I mean, you said it yourself. Look, there's only so many options. And eventually you run out of options. And like they always say, look, no matter, like Sherlock Holmes used to say, it doesn't matter how implausible something is. When you have exhausted all the other what ifs of potentials, what it could be, then you're only left with something behind, and that has to be the answer. So, it's at a minimum, this is showing shockingly embarrassing for our government, showing how ill prepared we are to handle even something as simple as drones, if they are drones. Now, if this is a cover story for something far more profound, then they need to level with the American people. The problem right now is that anything the administration says, nobody believes anymore. So they could actually come out with the truth, and I doubt anybody would believe them.
Yeah, that is true. Nobody's going to believe it. No, if they did come out with truth, it's too late, because the government's been bullshitting with this whole thing from the beginning. Not only that, but yeah, politicians lying their asses off about all this as well, saying this is from Iran, China, or Russia, and it's not. It's much bigger than that, since it's happening around the world and stuff. How much bigger? I don't feel like saying how much bigger, really, but
nothing that I'm saying here is in any way an endorsement for the incoming president-elect's administration. It's a simple acknowledgement of the facts. It does look like, as you've said earlier, he's appointing people who are avowedly pro-transparency on the UAP issue.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And by the way, this new administration has not been shy at all. Been telling people from the beginning they want to drain the swamp and that they want to go ahead and add truth and transparency to our government. Creating something called DOGE, right? The Department of, the Government Efficiency Office, right?
Yes.
Department of Government Efficiency. So they're taking bold steps to fulfill a promise that administration had made previously, during an administration prior to this one that we're in now. And I suspect that they are getting very serious about it. Several of the people that have been appointed to cabinet positions, I'm not going to say who, I am personally aware of their interest into leveling with the American public about what's going on, whatever that may be, that narrative. They're interested and committed to doing that. And I think that we're having more and more of our men and women in uniform feeling more and more emboldened to tell the truth because they see what's happening right now. They see that maybe society is more prepared for the real truth than even the government is, right? And so maybe now is the time to come forward if anybody out there is listening, has been part of these legacy programs, because we know who some of you are. Probably great if you came out and had a conversation with the American people because you have an opportunity to be a hero here if you're willing to speak truth to power.
Let's give the best possible spin to what's going on in the White House, Lou. Let's assume that, yes, there's been a secret kept for 70, 80 years that there's a retrieval program involving non-human technology.
Which we have.
What, hypothetically, could a president be being told that would persuade them that it's a good idea to continue lying to the American public about that?
Yes.
Because at the moment, we have a situation where Dr. John Kozlowski, who may or may not know directly himself, has told the Congress, not under oath, mind you, but he's told the Congress in public hearing that there is no evidence of extraterrestrial engagement with planet Earth.
He is a lying piece of shit.
I think every member of the executive branch, when going before Congress, should swear, under oath. That's part of the problem. I did.
They do it anyway. They lie under oath anyways. They are sociopaths, psychopaths. And some are under threat with their lives not to tell the truth. If they believe what they're saying, and lying about it, they believe that should be kept secret. They believe that has to do with national security, and it doesn't. None of it does. It's all BS. Some are afraid they'll lose their lives too. They don't. They'll be sent to prison or whatever. Some are part of the deep state. They want to make money off this technology. They have they're bought and stuff. So
did it. So did Grush and others, Mike Gold and Schellenberger and Admiral Gallaudet. So should these bureaucrats.
I mean, people lie under oath all the time.
As well. I think there are several aspects to this that could be cause a great deal of social angst and anxiety internationally. It is potentially destabilizing information that is potentially considered threatening. It's no different than when Galileo historically proposed a heliocentric model of our solar system, and the church found that information so dangerous that they were willing to put him at the stake, burn him at the stake for it. And we say, well, that was, hundreds of years ago.
It's still
back in the
today.
late 40s when we discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls. It was nearly 20 years before scientists started releasing the translations of the Dead Sea Scrolls out of fear that they were going to disrupt the current understanding of the Judeo-Christian belief system. So knowledge can be disruptive. And especially when you are in power, whether it's a religion or an organization, institution, academia, science, or government, you don't want to be perceived as not having the right answer. And this is certainly a topic where, we are information low density. This is an environment where not everybody's being provided information. And so people in that vacuum will fill that void with whatever they know or they think. And this is the problem that this administration has on its hands right now because they're not being forthcoming and they don't have a handle on things. The sky's the limit on speculation. I have my own opinion what this possibly could be. I'm going to hold that opinion until we get more data. But I think it's pretty clear that, we're dealing definitely with an advanced technology. And if it turns out that it's foreign adversarial, then shame on us. If it turns out that it's our own technology, then shame on us. And if it turns out that it's something far more exotic, then again, shame on us because we're not having the conversation. This conversation is going to happen no matter what, whether the administration wants it to or not. We're here now. So trying to put the cat back in the bag and pretending like there's not a drone issue, I think is probably the worst thing that you could do right now at this point if you were somebody in the administration.
You've got to admit, Lou, this must feel good. It must be vindicating for you to see all the things that you've been warning about coming home to roost on the current administration.
Wow. I don't have time to gloat in any success, but I'm frustrated more than anything because it just highlights the reasons why colleagues of mine and myself have come forward for the last 7 years and been ringing the alarm bell.
The thing that pisses me off about is that some of us have known our entire life. And some of us have known a lot longer than him. And there have been people that have come out way before him. There have been, a lot of people that worked at Raytheon, General Dynamics, aerospace industry, and military and intelligence that came out before him, and laughed their asses off at us and stuff when we knew stuff, and it pisses me off. And say that Satan or demons or they just all this BS, and it's ridiculous.
And when they would tell the American people straight to the face, nothing to see here, like, I don't know, Air Force Secretary Kendall in 2022 when he told on CBS, none other than, during an interview that, yes, we know UAP are real and they're out there, but it's not a priority for us because we don't think they pose a threat. That is the most asinine comment anybody in a position of authority could ever make. Because you don't know the source of something, you're going to say it's not a threat. So wait a minute, by that same argument, if there is a nuclear-powered ICBM submarine in the middle of the Potomac River that pops out one day, but because it doesn't have a Russian star on it or a North Korean identifier on it, you're going to ignore it because you don't know where it's from? That is not how national security works. In fact, we presume everything is a threat until we know it's not a threat. It's a very simple calculus, capabilities versus intent. We're seeing some of these capabilities by these aircraft, whatever these are. We have no idea the intent. So for someone like Kirby or anybody else to come out or Kendall to say that these things aren't a threat, that is the exact opposite of the kind of people we need in national security leading this conversation. We don't need to be paranoid, but we need to be prepared.
Well, Lou Elizondo, I've got a funny feeling that over the next few weeks, if not days, the White House is going to be forced into making some kind of an admission about what it truly knows. And it may simply be they admit they know nothing, which in and of itself would be a frightening admission.
I wouldn't be surprised either. This is a very fluid topic that you and I both know very well, that things happen and they change in an instant. I would just simply say that I would encourage you and your colleagues in the media to continue to pursue this topic, because I think you're going to find that whatever this winds up being could wind up being something truly paradigm changing in the way we look at things from a national security perspective.
Now you've got me excited. Lou Elizondo, thanks for joining Reality Check. We'll speak to you again soon.
My honor, privilege. Thank you as always.
Okay, so now I want to bring in Ben Hansen, who's a former FBI agent and UFO investigator. But before I do, I just want to set the scene for the interview, because Ben's been on the ground in Connecticut since Wednesday last week through to Saturday last weekend. And he's seen on the ground what the local police are seeing. But before he tells us what the local police are telling us they're seeing, and what Ben's seeing, I want to tell you what the White House says they're seeing from the lofty heights of the White House. And Admiral John Kirby, the national security spokesman for President Joe Biden, has basically said this morning, this is lawful, legal, commercial, hobbyist, and even law enforcement aircraft activity. Some manned, some unmanned. We acknowledge that a lot of these are probably drones, but they're flying legally. And it is legal to fly drones in non-restricted airspace. Now, Ben, I think I know.
Of course, plenty is restricted airspace. Though he doesn't say that. Of course, they're spinning it their own way. So, which they're lying to the American people about. So
the answer to what John Kirby says. I think that answer, I'm sorry, it's disingenuous because it's not representing what we know to be the case, which is that there are confirmed sightings from the base commander of the Picatinny Arsenal in New Jersey and also from the Earl Weapons Base, the Naval Weapons Base, of multiple sightings of drone objects or objects that appear to be drones over these highly sensitive military facilities that are, without any shadow of a doubt, restricted airspace. What do you say to that, Ben? And welcome to the show.
Oh, I know this.
Thanks, Ross. Well, I'd have.
I remember him doing thing on Bigfoot, and I know about the connection between Bigfoot, UFOs, and stuff like that. Ben Hansen there, and ET's created them, stuff like that. They help create us as well. There's a connection between all these paranormal things and cryptids or whatever. All these things are connected to the paranormal. So I just remembered that episode. I wish I could get a hold of it. I have to worry about stupid BS copyright thing from YouTube. But the people have a right to know. I feel how everything is connected, how it has to do with our lives. A lot of people say, well, it has nothing to do with our lives. Well, ETs have been here as longer than we have, and they've had everything to do with our existence. And knowing who we are, knowing, the different dimensions that we live in, that this isn't the only one. I think people have enlightenment, knowing about, psychic abilities that we have, telepathic abilities that can be reached and known is just very important to me, at least, because we don't need technology, we don't need these stupid phones or anything like that when we could do something psychically.
I have to agree with you. I think that is either speaking in a completely uninformed or from an uninformed position, or disingenuous completely. If anybody would spend a couple of hours reading over the different reports and seeing the headlines. In fact, just 20 minutes ago, my family was texting me. They live in Utah near Hill Air Force Base. Hill Air Force Base just confirmed over the past few days they've had a few drone sightings near the base. Said it hasn't impacted so far shutting down the base, but it's concerning. They're working with, federal.
And this hasn't been, of course, on mainstream media. There's some stuff that they're not reporting about, just keeping it confined more to New Jersey, Pennsylvania, stuff like that, and, the northeastern states, Southern California, and Arizona. But there's a lot of stuff that isn't being reported. To keep things also drones, there is some UFO stuff being seen with these drones. They're just trying to spin it the way that they want.
Authorities to figure out what's going on. As you know, most hobbyist drones and those that want to take off near any airport, there's built-in safeguard measures for most of the off-the-shelf stuff that don't allow you to do that without overriding it and having some skill, they are violating the law. If these are known craft, let's say that they're either hobbyists or commercial, they have to have specific waivers to do this sort of thing, which means that the FAA is aware of them and they've been authorized to do so, yet you have the FAA telling us and other federal agencies they have no clue who they are, where they're coming from. So somebody's either violating the law, they are violating laws despite what's being said, or it is authorized military activity and not being transparent with us.
Well, what do you think? I mean, you've been on the ground there. Are you seeing any evidence that this is authorized military activity? I would have thought that the Defense Department would not flat out lie, because as my understanding is the case, the Defense Department said definitively on the record last Thursday through Sabrina, the Pentagon spokeswoman, that the drones being seen in the sky are not US military drones. Categorical statement. Is it possible that there's some kind of secret military operation going on that the White House doesn't want to know about? Want us to know about?
I guess it's possible. My gut feeling, and based on from what I'm hearing the buzz and from others that have spoken to me or asked questions and asked for my consultation, I believe that if this was our military, you've heard, for example, the idea that maybe they're bomb sniffing, that there's a WMD somewhere and they're trying to search it out. Having worked for the federal government, I'm not speaking on knowledge of this particular case, but that interagency interoperability, the communications, the JTTF, the Joint Terrorism Task Force, all those that work on this sort of thing would be involved. I don't see a world where your federal agencies are not going to know. If it is that serious and that type of emergency where there's either going to be a special ops or there's going to be some sort of...
everyone will know about it. Everyone knows. The news and everybody. It's an interagency thing that would happen. Boots on the ground and everything. They'd have sniffers on the ground and everything. Equipment on the ground. That's not happening. So for them to spin this BS, that's in through the air and stuff like that, it is total BS.
Massive testing of some sort, you're going to notify your federal agencies, especially within the DoD. If your own air bases have to shut down because they can't control that restricted airspace, I would say that's a very low possibility that these are ours. So what is it?
So let's put what President-elect Donald Trump has said today on the record. He said the government knows what is happening, and for some reason they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows. Our president knows. Those are pretty definitive comments. And for some reason, he says, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it were the enemy, even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. Do you really think Trump does know, that the president and the Defense Department really does know what's going on? Because the impression I get from everybody I'm talking to is the complete opposite. From county police, the FBI, Homeland Security, the Defense Department, everybody has no idea what these objects are, other than that they look and appear to be drones, but they behave in ways that are not necessarily consistent with normal drone activity.
Yeah, I think if we've learned anything, for example, from 9/11, it was that the agencies weren't communicating. Intelligence was not being shared, handed off, and pattern analyzed.
It would create a stupid Homeland Security, which really isn't needed. Never was needed. It's just another bureaucratic agency. We have the FBI and CIA to do this stuff. We have ATF, which is anti-constitution. But we have all these other agencies that's supposed to be doing this stuff. So
that wasn't happening like it is now. And I think at risk of having some major attack, something happen again, if it were that serious, I would fully believe these fusion centers would be working overtime. You would have every agency out there and filtering down at least to the high level of alert, be out on the lookout for this with local law enforcement. And none of that's happening. So I don't know. It's so easy to say that the government knows, because like you said, everything I'm seeing is the reaction of like a knee-jerk reaction of, we don't want to appear panicked, and so we're going to put out the message that, hey, there's no national security threat here, but yet we can't control our airspace and we have to shut down our air bases for a few hours.
But frankly, that makes the White House's comments that everything that's happening with these drones is perfectly legal nonsensical. It actually makes them look ridiculous, doesn't it?
It does. And if you have a sec, I can walk you through some of these regs, because a lot of people don't really understand. I'm a Part 107 FAA drone pilot, or they call it small UAS. I've been licensed ever since about 2010 or 11, when they first started issuing licenses. And I'm an airplane, seaplane pilot of fixed wing aircraft. So I'm very well familiar with airspaces, and I was one of the first to obtain a legal waiver to fly at night. Now, it's not necessary under certain conditions. So in fact, this morning I spoke to an attorney who specializes in drone litigation and laws. So if you were to take a look, let's say that even half of this is true with these confirmed sightings, somebody who has not obtained the proper waivers, okay, they're called COAs, C-O-A. If you have not obtained that proper COA in the United States, there's hefty fines. 75,000, I think, was the number. It's not uncommon. You could face jail and prison sentences. They've recently arrested some people just now for this. You have the first one, flying at night. You can do so now without a specific waiver, but you have to have anti-collision lights, okay, that are seen for 3 miles.
Right.
A lot of these are seen now with the lights off. You have to stay below 400 feet unless you have a waiver. A lot of these are seen way up there and coming back down and doing all sorts of maneuvers. You have to fly within line of sight, meaning the controller of the craft has to have maintained visual sight of their drone. You can't be flying for miles away. And the amount of distance these things are covering, in some of these cases, I think eliminates that. Somebody's flying out of line of sight. What else? A drone more than 55 pounds is considered a heavy lift, and you have to have that not only registered specifically with the FAA, but have a waiver to fly it. You can't fly directly over people who are not involved unless you have a waiver and parachutes and all sorts of things. So take one of these cases where people are zoomed in and you're seeing something the size of an SUV. It looks like, the swept back wings, not a typical quadricopter. It's swept back wings that convert and come forward, and then they can come down for vertical thrust, but they convert basically into a horizontal lift airplane. These things, at minimum, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, for each one of these things of that size. And I can only see military having the ability and the resources to create something like either ours or for an adversary. So there's your problem. If it's not done by waiver, if it's not a commercial hobbyist who has a waiver, then the FAA knows about it.
So does a drone that size have to display any kind of transponder ID?
Yeah.
So when we get into transponders too, to kind of water this down for people who aren't, into this world, a transponder, when we say that word, is typically for a manned aircraft. And what that does is broadcast a squawk code, we call it. It's a several digit code so that air traffic control can identify it on their radar. It also typically gives the altitude and the speed and direction of that aircraft. Now, when a couple years ago, it's been several years now, they found that we want more information than just the basic telemetry. We'd also like to know the identification of where this craft is going to and from. We'd like to use GPS. to help get it more precise location. And so they came out with ADSB. And basically that's a broadcasting, and it's also a transmitter, but every craft...
They're creating these draconian laws right now, which is supposed to make things even worse for civilian use of these drones. God, I hate the government. I really do, because this isn't going after the root cause. Which, this is, government doing this. And like I said, so this is re-engineered craft. Some of this real UFO stuff that's happening. But
within most airspaces is required to have this on.
Okay,
there are exceptions.
$99 question. Do any of these drones have ADSB?
What I'm hearing right now, no.
Yeah.
And you can get on a website such as Flight Radar or ADSB Exchange. You can pull these up. Now, the third thing that drones use what's called remote ID. Now, remote ID, it's a different system than ADSB, but that became compliant as of a year or so ago, where new drones have to be broadcasting this remote ID. You can pull up an app, or you can buy the hardware, and you can actually put up a receiver and see any supposed drone in compliance that's broadcasting this. And from what I've heard...
And forgive me for interrupting, Ben, but
sure.
If it's a legal requirement for a drone to display ADSB, especially something the size of a car or a large SUV, which is what the police and military are reporting, is it a breach of the laws? Is it a criminal offence to fly such a drone over public land or open civilian areas, or worse still, restricted airspace, that would put them in breach of FAA regulations?
Yes and no. So again, the hobbyist drones and things are broadcasting what they call remote ID. Not to conflate the two, but the ADSB would go on the larger craft. For example, I've pulled up some where they're testing a contract for a drone for the military future use or whatever, and they are broadcasting ADSB. But all of the hobbyists in those are using the remote ID. And yes, to answer your question, if you're flying in most of the metropolitan, most of the areas where there's controlled airspace, they are required to broadcast the remote ID. If they're not doing it,
I don't want to get our audience confused. So let me just summarize this. There are multiple reasons why what is being seen in the sky by police, military, and civilian observers is demonstrably a law breach. It's unlawful for those craft to be being flown without the prerequisites that stipulate in the FAA regulations.
That's precisely what I'm saying. If you look at where some of these have been seen, they would have to not only broadcast and comply with the regs or have waivers. And what happens if you have a waiver? Then the official system knows about it. The FAA knows about it.
Help this bear with a very small brain here, Ben. Why on earth would the national security spokesperson for the White House put out such a misleading statement as to assert this activity is lawful, legal, commercial, hobbyist, and even law enforcement aircraft activity? They're flying legally, he says.
Well, that's a broad statement to make. That's like saying, I've spoken to everybody in the country about their opinion on toilet paper, and I know they all like this toilet paper, right? How do you know what everybody likes? You can't come out and say that every drone has been lawfully flown. That's too broad of a statement, because I think he's either speaking purely uninformed and they had to hurry and get a press release out to calm people, or they are covering something up.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how you could say that, because from a law enforcement perspective, there's a lot they could do if they could find and catch them.
Okay, well,
there's a lot of violations.
Let's be absolutely clear about this, that we know for sure, because even the military's admitted this, that there have been 11 confirmed reported overflights, illegal breaches of restricted naval or US Air Force airspace at not US Air Force, there's Picatinny Arsenal and the Naval Weapons Station Earl. Picatinny's had confirmed at least 11 sightings. Naval Weapons Station Earl activated their de-droning equipment, and they've had at least 2 sightings. And then, to cap it all off, you had Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which, as you and I both know, is one of
UFOs,
the whole...
Wright-Patterson, boy, even my father said, you want secrets on UFOs. Wright-Patterson had that. So many people that I've heard, that have dealt with being at secret base and stuff like that, has said Wright-Patterson, that's one of the mother loads, where all this began. 1947 crash, that's where they sent the UFOs, Wright-Patterson. That's where they sent that disc to. All these other discs, the other discs from the 40s and stuff like that, they sent it to Wright-Patterson. So they have, you want to know a lot about UFOs and Ridge stuff, Wright-Patterson is a place. And then they made these secret underground bases. You have Area 51, you have Area 52 Dugway, all these other places as well. Wright-Patterson was an OG, so to speak.
Holy sanctuaries of rumoured UFO folklore. It's reported overflights which were so serious on UASs, unidentified, unmanned aerial systems. The UAS activity over Wright-Patterson Air Force Base was so severe they closed down the entire airfield. Now, by any definition, that's unlawful, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Somebody should be going to prison for that. It not only is a national security risk if you don't know who the actor is and what they're doing, but it wastes hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in resources when you shut a facility down like that. So there's so many implications. I just can't understand why that would be a good PR move to say that all of these are accounted for by law enforcement or they're known.
That's just
I would like
bullshit.
Specifics. I would like details. And let's take case X, Y, or Z and say that particular one was the reason it didn't show up on your ADSB is because it was under a government mission. Okay, whatever. But to just make such a blanket statement is not helpful.
So let's go to what you saw. You were based in Connecticut, just to the north of Long Island, sort of northeast of New York, for the last 4 days, from Wednesday through to Saturday last week. Did you, obviously the local police there were with you when you saw supposed drones. Did you see anything about the objects that you saw that made you question if these were normal drones?
That's a good question.
So personally, when we were there for another case, and we were in Fairfield County, and this little tiny PD, they'd invite us to come over. It was sorry for the Celsius conversion, I'm not very good, but it was 22 degrees Fahrenheit, quite cold, and for this Californian boy. So we were trying to warm up. They said, come over to the PD. You can have some, coffee, hot chocolate, get warmed up. So the moment we go into this very small PD, the officers were excited, and they said, "You guys following this drone thing?" And
PD's
said,
police
"Yeah,
department."
kind of." And he actually turned on News Nation, and we were watching a report of what was going on in New Jersey. And he said, "We've had 4 reports just in the past couple of hours." And he listens to his radio, and he goes, "We got another one." And I said, "Can we roll with you?" And I said, "This came in on 911." And he said, "They have some sort of unified command, whether it was non-emergency or not." He didn't care. He got in his SUV. We followed him. I wish I was rolling on this because it would be great footage. We were going down suburban streets like 50 miles an hour with our get out of jail free card because we're following the cops. And we're cruising through the streets and get to the area where it is. We get out. We had our flight radar and our apps up trying to search the skies. And we did see some unusual lights that would come behind some of the trees, flashing anti-collision that weren't showing up as commercial jet aviation. We didn't get good video of that, but one of the officers did share with me what they recorded just right outside the police station. As you zoom in on it, it does kind of look like a quadricopter. The hard thing is to know whether these are now, which I do believe most are copycats, right? They're hobbyists and people getting out there. Oh, this is fun. Let's put up a drone. And the signal to noise ratio is going way up. And I have to make that point for people. Most of these, yes, are now going to be either people faking, hoaxing, putting out videos, or flying their hobby drone they got early for Christmas. But the part that isn't is where you're getting these, like I said, mostly the very large SUV types that take, for example, the ones they've reported that were in New Jersey that were up for 12 hours or more. I'm very well connected to what is the next thing coming out in the industry. I've been working with companies that are doing this.
There's a law, Chris.
And let me give you one example. There's a company that was going for government bids, and they were very excited that they could get a drone that was hydrogen powered. Okay, so the core system is hydrogen powering an electrical motor that is very quiet. So like they're describing, these things are very quiet, still some noise. And they were excited they were getting about 2 hours of airtime out of it. 2 to 4 hours. We think we could do 4 hours in the air. Okay. You're talking about stuff right now, if true, that's staying up for 12 hours or more, right? I wouldn't call that exotic. I would call that next gen. It's possible.
Yeah.
But it's not something that I'm aware of that current industry is doing right now unless they've already implemented it. So that's a problem. You know, these are not your off-the-shelf commercial drones. If all this is true, they have some extreme capabilities, and yet we don't know who owns them.
I wonder how those police in Connecticut or New Jersey feel that they're being gaslit by the national security spokesman for the White House, telling them that they're not seeing what they think they're seeing.
They're upset. They're upset. Plus, you got to remember, especially in the rural areas, they don't have the resources to have a robust counter UAS program. The bigger metropolitan areas now are having like fusion centers where they'll get the anti-drone jamming. The jammers, you know, they see that they hold like a rocket launcher and they can jam and bring down or redirect them. The small towns don't have this. They're pretty much doing what the rest of us are and trying to put an app up to the sky and seeing if it's, you know, a known craft or not. And so they're at a loss because what they're being told from the government is two different things, right? Out of the same, you know, Department of Defense. One half is saying we're closing down our airports, and the other half is saying, no, that's all accounted for. We know what these all are. And the local law enforcement is, what do we do with the concerns of the people?
Well, Ben, thank you for sharing your insights. I suspect both of us are going to keep on digging. And
that's Bill Hounsey, who's worked with the FBI. His father worked at Wright-Patterson, I believe. His father knew stuff. I don't want to say what because I don't remember, but he said his father knew stuff, and that he got on doing on different channels like Discovery, on UFOs, investigate UFO stuff. So he's been involved in other paranormal stuff, Bigfoot, as well as connection between UFOs and Bigfoot. Try to get that video out doing that, but stupid copyright BS I'd have to do on their platform, which maybe I should. Anyways, everybody, I hope you have a great morning, noon, night, wherever you are. Take care.